things, and then we would give some of the negotiators.
Nope, they're gone.
For those groups.
Did we get enough? Does everybody have does everyone? Les, you have your name and do you have a copy? Okay, great. Okay. Welcome to the tree board meeting for the town of Carbondale. We will start our meeting with our hour roll call.
Lisa Page,
Here,
Dan Bullock,
Here.
Meredith Bullock,
Here.
Noah Sakamoto,
Here.
Josh Crawford,
Here.
Les Kuhn, and Vanessa Harmony.
here.
All right. Quorum.
And-
Joanne Teeple present.
Oh, Joanne Teeple.
Am I off the board? Because I'll leave right now.
I knew I was missing something.
And I think we have Ross.
Are
Are you on, Ross?
No, Cami Long is on. Cami, can you hear us okay?
I can. Can you hear me okay?
And do we think Carl may be?
I
I
saw
know
him.
he's out.
I saw him today,
Okay.
so he said he was coming. He might just
Okay,
be
great.
running a little bit late.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have our approval of our July meeting minutes. May I have any discussion on those minutes?
Yes, on the 888 Main Street, I would like to mention that I have a concern about where their snow storage is on the northeast corner of that property.
And are you saying that you would like that in the minutes?
Correct.
Okay,
Discussed.
anyone else with any changes to the minutes? Okay, may I have a motion to approve? Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Okay, Josh gave us a second. Okay. Alrighty, public comment. We do not have anyone in our audience this evening. So we'll move on to tree board comments. Who would,
I
Go
do
ahead.
have one point of order. So with the two new members, Vanessa and Les, we had one member position and one alternate position available. And since Les handed in his application first, I gave him the member position. However, Meredith has mentioned that she would be interested in renouncing her member position if Vanessa wants to be a voting member.
And I'd be happy to be an alternate if there's a need for a tiebreaker or something, but
Okay, so
words is too much.
great. Meredith, would you just verbally renounce your member position
I
and
formally renounce my position.
then Vanessa, would you assume the member position?
And I will assume the board position. Thank you.
Is everyone okay with that, with Vanessa being a voting member?
do we need a vote or?
Just an all
Yeah,
aye?
all in favor? Aye.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Carry on.
Thanks for pointing that out. Okay. Alrighty, so to orient our new members, this item number 4, this is a part of our agenda where we have tree board member comments. And so we have it for probably about 3 minutes, so be mindful of your time. And we can go around the room, round robin, or whoever wants to go first. But it's intended to allow tree board members to bring observations to the group. A lot of us are in the town, we walk around, we see things, and we want to bring them to the attention of other members. So it's just an informal, please tell us what you see, what your observations are, what your comments are. And again, probably about 3 minutes or so. So is there anyone that would like to start off tree board comments tonight? Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, Margaret and Frank Nadell on 8th Street have a maple tree that the branches are hanging down over the sidewalk. I had promised Carl I would send him a note about that, and I didn't, but I will. Because I was walking with the town manager and Ross the other day, and they both ran into the branches hanging. So that, the other thing, just real quickly, I have met with Kay Bernay. She is interested in continuing on updating her tree planting list, and when Carl let me know when I can look at those files, and I won't take anything out of the office. I'll probably just make copies, and I'll bring my own copier over. And Kay's interested in working with me on updating that file too. And just one real quick thing, Cammie's name is Kamie, not Y.
Yeah, I thought I spelled it correctly.
So I saw it in that, but anyway, that's it.
I have two comments. Comment number one, where the Crystal Meadows senior housing is, they planted a spruce tree over there that's on the south side of the property. And I know that we take great care to not do that on our purview, but I believe that is town property. And it looks like it's going to become an ice factor on that area as it grows up. And I don't know how it ended up on that property anyway, but it went in there a couple weeks ago. Another item that we may look at massaging to or make work for us is the Wall Street Journal had an article last weekend about how New York City does a 10-year tree inventory for the entire city of New York. And they have 800,000 trees now. I know they lost 100,000 trees during Superstorm Sandy, but they go and they do a quick thing. They have cards that they take out and they can do species ID. They do their measurements, canopy, all that for every public tree in New York City. That's once every 10 years, not every other year. Thanks.
So I want to make sure, Joanne, I think I heard you ask a question, well, kind of a question, senior housing. You're wondering if the senior housing property is a town maintained property?
Yeah, what they're putting a spruce tree on it's the north side of their property, so it's going to shade the south side of Hendricks Drive upon maturity.
Okay.
I have a question. That was a good segue. Why are spruce trees on the do not plant list?
Okay.
They're
Okay,
water
hold on a second,
usurpers.
Dan, for that. Why, I think that is, Carl, I think, is that gonna be, I think that's a question directed at you, probably, because that's part of the town do not plant, yeah.
But it's specifically as for a street tree. It's not necessarily like in a park. It's just a street tree. Part of it has to do with shading. Well, and where it is, it can create shade and creates ice, snow loads, things like that. But it's also, if it's close to the sidewalk or street, the way the branches grow out, kind of straight out. So, there's certain parts of town where that's happening and it makes it hard to raise them up.
Yeah, thanks.
But
Understood.
it's streets. It's specifically
But
like
just
streets.
streets,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's not like we
Yeah.
can't put them in parks. We don't put a lot of them in parks, but
Mhm. That makes sense.
We have a history in this town of mature spruce trees blowing over, crossing intersections, breaking property. They're very shallow rooted and they're water usurpers. You can't plant anything under them.
Good, Noah?
Yeah.
Okay. Who would like to go next? Go ahead, Les. Just turn on, yep.
Press the button and.
Yeah.
Since our hike last month, I'm looking at every tree grade I come across. So I'm aware that quite a few are starting to collar the trunks. So that's what I see.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. I know over for myself on Main Street, there are some trees close to me that, I don't know how they're gonna survive, but It'll be down the road. Nope.
I have a comment, and this can be a long-term and, not anything high priority, but speaking of New York City, they have a program for training citizen pruners. And I just wonder if that might be something we might be interested in considering for smaller size trees on public rights of way.
Citizen pruners.
And so they have an education program where they train the citizen pruners, and then they're authorized to do pruning of small trees.
We're going to talk about ideas because I want to present to everybody here how we can try to take our ideas and try to get them into a format that allows us to track them. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's a great idea.
There's one thing.
Yeah.
The tree board members were trained to do the pruning before, and we were called tree stewards. And now that we have a fuller tree board, we got to a point where we only had 3 people, so it wasn't really a thing that we did. And so that could be a possibility. We could go back to that program again.
We can look at that idea. And Meredith, you didn't have anything tonight? Okay, just share. So did everybody get a chance here? Josh? Okay. And let me think. I think what we're starting to see some of that hardscape come into place along Main Street, the finalization of the pool and that. I think that's going to give us some visualization of certainly, definitely the landscape that's going to go around that. That's been one of our concerns. So, we'll probably have some more discussion about that as that starts to enter into something a little more visual. And that's really about it. That's been my observation over the last month, is how that's really starting to come together over there. Okay. Anyone else on tree board comments? Okay. So we're saving, let's see, I think we're gonna do Cami first before the orientation. Oh, I see. Okay. What do we-
Ask her any questions in specific about the tree board orientation.
Was hoping that she was gonna do like a little bit of a, like, this is who I am, this is what I do,
She can
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So do you want to keep it under a public comment?
Yeah. Let's go.
This might be a little bit longer than 5 minutes. Okay. Okay, we're gonna go backwards a little bit here back to public comment. This will be our guest on Zoom tonight, Cami Long, Cami, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you do and who you are?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. My name is Cami with an IE. Thank you, Dan. Whenever I see my name spelled wrong, I don't really recognize it as me. Not that I saw my name spelled wrong, but I do appreciate that. I work for the Colorado State Forest Service out of Grand Junction. I'm the urban and community forestry specialist, whatever that necessarily means. So what I do is help communities and CSU Extension and a lot of tree boards, and in Grand Junction we have a forestry board. But I'm here as a resource to help communities manage and manage their trees, educate public, just be a resource. So Dan has reached, and Carl I work a lot with, Dan's reached out with questions about trees. So I'm here as just an outside resource for you to take advantage of. I've been doing urban forestry for 20 some years now. I'm a certified arborist. I'm a tree risk assessment qualified, meaning I can assess large trees for risk through the International Society of Arboriculture. I am just a real tree nerd. So I'm a resource for you when you want to brainstorm ideas, or I get to see what other tree boards are doing. I'm on the Grand Junction Forestry Board. So I know what we're doing and what's working and what's not working. So in Grand Junction, when I became the chair, and I think it sounds like you're kind of doing this now, is what are your goals and your objectives? What do you want the tree board to do? In Grand Junction, we're there to help support the city forester and manage the list of arborists who are licensed to do work in city limits. But our secondary goal is outreach and education. So then we were deciding as a group to what the best way that is besides just doing Arbor Days. So I think having those conversations of what are your goals and objectives and how can you reach those is really important. And then figuring out what works and what doesn't. What started to work for Grand Junction is we go to the Grand Junction Farmers Market every week. We have a booth there every week. So my suggestion to the board was we only do outreach to our people on Arbor Day, and that's just not enough. So where are the people? A lot of the people are at the farmers markets. We only go to obviously the Grand Junction one, but so this is our third year having a booth every week. And we interact with 70 to 120 people a night. Some of them are local, some of them aren't, but it's outreach and education, sharing what trees to plant, how to plant, and really it's just those random questions. I just stop people and I say, do you have any tree questions? And they'll be like, no. And then they'll be like, oh, I do have a question. I just didn't expect to get it answered tonight at farmer's market. So just kind of figuring out what your goals and objectives are. That was ours, outreach and education, which is obviously a very generic one, very broad reaching. So yeah, my job is to be a resource for you. I work with Carl a lot. I was there when we found EAB in town. He reached out to me, and it just so happened that I was in the next town over in Aspen with the state entomologist. So we caravan down to Carbondale on our way out of town, and it was like the perfect timing for something we didn't want to find, but couldn't have asked for Dan, Wes, and his team to be any closer than we were. So just a resource for you all. Happy to answer questions.
I have a question, Cami. In the communities that you've done outreach that are similar to us, which is probably going to be Roaring Fork here, what are some of the, give us an example of, a kind of a positive outcome. I want to call it a quick win, but that's a very kind of corporate jargon, but something that, you can say, hey, this really worked in this community.
Well, one thing that we found is just putting together some kind of fact sheet or informational sheet that people can get offline, off the internet, or pick up from town hall on something that you're finding to be an issue, a common question. How do I water my trees? How much do I water my trees? So I know when EAB was found, the Roaring Fork Valley put together a trifold on educational information. So I think if you're getting a lot of questions, putting together some kind of formal or informal fact sheet can be an easy win to help educate. And one of the things I was doing recently was looking at websites for the communities on the I-70 corridor. And I can't remember what Carbondale's looks like, but I think more information on websites is helpful because people are going there first looking for information. So kind of beefing up or putting some information on there of common asked questions. I know you have some stuff on there already, but there are some communities on the Roaring Fork or on the I-70 corridor who have nothing about trees. So that would be an easy place to start.
I have a question that's come up for me a couple of times, which is like the balance between providing mulch underneath trees, which is heavily like ISA recommended, and then the I guess that the contrast with fire mitigation and that mulch can actually be like quite a, fuel for fire. And the way, right, we are right now, there's lots of fires, so it's kind of been on my mind, whether or not to keep like pushing mulch as heavily, as I have been. And I don't know, yeah, if you have any comments on that, that'd be.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I got solely into urban forestry, I was a traditional forester for the State Forest Service. So I did a lot of wildfire mitigation as my role. And it's still rattling around in there, all that information. So mulch, when it's at a depth of 4 inches or less, and a fire gets in there, it's easy to just spread that mulch around and put the fire out. So as long as it's not very deep and not in piles, mulch is not a fire concern. It obviously can carry fire, but it's easy to extinguish if it's not too deep. Mulch around trees can be very helpful when it's not deep. So you don't want deep mulch around root balls. You want it in that 2 to 4 inch depth and never touching the trunk of the tree, because the mulch, when it gets wet, will hold that moisture against the trunk and start to break down the bark of the tree. How I know that is it happened to a tree in my backyard. When I learned that that was a problem, I went and pulled the mulch back from my beautiful Dawn redwood, and it had totally killed all the bark around the base of the tree. It sloughed off and that tree died within a year. So mulch is fine, not direct contact with the trunk, and no more than 4 inches deep.
Thanks. Where did you have a Dawn redwood?
In my yard here in Junction, and it was doing pretty darn well until I killed it. I think I got it from Vince.
Tammy, we have an event, monthly event here in Carbondale called First Friday. And we have in the past had a tree board booth. And thinking, it's something that we could look at going forward on a more regular basis. I think we have targeted maybe some of the early, like June and May and June, First Fridays. An event like that, is that something that's within your, is that within your ability to attend if we had something like that?
Potentially one, I mean, I'm in Junction, so, nobody likes driving at night. So I could potentially attend one, but it's not something I'd want to do on a frequent basis, but I would be happy to meet with you to talk through like what's really working well for us, because we've been doing this for a couple seasons now, and there's definitely things at the booth that's working better than other things. But what I can say is that people have come back to the booth because they know we're going to be there, and they bring tree questions and photos to us because they know we'll be there. And so that consistency of being there every week is really benefited us as well.
Okay.
And we just have it staffed by 2 forestry board members a week. And so it's 3 or 4 times a season. And so it's not a real heavy lift on any individual.
We have our Wednesdays farmers market that runs from 10 to 3. So that could be a perfect time too.
I was also thinking that there's the morning Kiwanis. Yeah.
What?
Isn't it Kiwanis over here at the fire station?
Rotary.
Rotary. Maybe once a month or something there too. That would be maybe a.
And they like presentations. I presented to one of our local Rotary groups here, talking about, because people love trees, but they don't know what they don't know. So giving a presentation, and that is something I could do, but it's also something Carl could do. Carl's presented at my Urban Forestry Council meetings many times, and he's a great presenter. So yeah, education and outreach in any form. I think you could, you can't spread yourself too thin, but finding the ones that you think you're going to have the most impact at, I think will be really beneficial. But if there
question.
are fact sheets or questions, like you were just asking about the mulch, that's a great question because we are trying to, the urban forestry team that I'm on is also trying to do a little more in the urban wildfire world. So I appreciate that mulch question because I think that's something that we should address in some of our documents. But if there are fact sheets that you're like, man, I wish we had this that we could hand out, that is something I can do to put together for you or work with you on to create, or maybe I've already created it for another community and we can just tweak it for yours. So consider what kind of questions and information you want to share with your community, and then I can help with the creation of that if it's not already done.
This is Joanne Cami. I have a question regarding the regs that are going to, the legislature is tasked every jurisdiction with for fire safety and water conservation that need to be in place by July 1 next year. Are you working on that in your forestry council, in your urban forestry council or your junction forestry council? And what kind of directions are you taking there?
You know, we haven't. I know my boss has been working with people in the Denver area about the turf conversions, but we haven't really done much in regards to that. So thanks, Joanne. I'll need to do some more research on that to have a better understanding of what's in those documents.
Thank you.
I think that the booth ideas sounds pretty enticing. And I'm just curious if you could like paint the picture a little. I mean, you said it's a booth, it's at the farmer's market, it has 2 members,
Sure.
which is good info, which kind of helps give some structure. But if there's anything else, like pamphlets, and then anything else that helps, that would help kind of like give us a jump start on it.
So we have you know, a tent, a shade shelter thing that, you know, pop-up shelter, because a lot of the booths down there have that, and it distinguishes you as a group. Plus ours is at right now, 5:30. There's people sweating on Main Street right now. And so we have that pop-up booth. And what we did recently, I was going to find a photo because I worked it a couple weeks ago. Is we got some banners, some like they're flat, and then you roll them out like a scroll, and it says "Ask an Arborist," because we have these signs that say this is the Grand Junction Forestry Board, but what does that mean to them? So I'm going to show. Let's see. I'm going to turn my background off because I know how that works. I can just, there we go. So sorry for a little bit of glare, but you can see we have the booth with the Grand Junction Forestry Board, and then we have an arboretum on Main Street. So we have a sign for the arboretum. And then over here, we have the sign that says "Ask an Arborist, free advice and education."
That's
And
nice.
so a lot of people walk by and they're like, I don't know what you're doing. Are you selling me windows? You know, because
Yeah.
that's what people do down there. There's, you know, they're always selling something, but we've got all this educational handouts on the booth. We team up with our master gardeners. So we usually have 2 forestry board members and a master gardener there to answer the turf questions, because I don't do turf. But then we also have like 3 weird tree things that have been found because people want to come up and like touch something. And we all have name tags on, and we all have these. I'm actually wearing my shirt tonight. We have a city forestry t-shirt, Root for Trees. So we're all like wearing the same outfit more or less. So that's what the booth is. There's a lot of handouts. There's QR codes for people who don't want to take a handout. But we're standing there asking people to engage with us. What I was doing the other week was standing next to the Ask an Arborist sign saying, "Here I am, ask me a question." And people would stop and talk to me. And so you have to reach out, engage to people, because we've all been to the farmer's market where you just see the people sitting behind their booth, you know, like playing on their phones. You have to be engaged, making eye contact. It's putting yourself in your introvert hat, extrovert hat, not your introvert hat. And that could be hard and exhausting for some of us. But it's, we have those handouts that we have out there are how to plant a tree properly, tree selection. We have something called our all-star tree list, which are trees that are not as common, but do well in the valley. So we're not getting people planting the same things over and over. We have a handout on watering and then we have in our city a rule that if you hire a licensed tree care company, or if you hire a tree care company, it has to be licensed through the city, which means right now that they have a certified arborist on staff. So we have a list of those companies that we license. So those are like the main 4 handouts we have, but we also have a box. I don't think it's in this photo, but just one of those boxes with like accordion with files in it of like almost every tree related CSU extension fact sheet in it. So if someone comes and asks me about fruit tree, Cytospora canker, I can pull that out. Elm seed bugs, I can pull it out. So I'm just kind of ready to go with information, because you never know what people are going to come and ask you. And some of them are just bonkers and you just roll with it. Some guy asked me if I thought trees had feelings. And I said, yes. I give my trees hugs. But so you never know what people are going to say, but you're getting that engagement where they're, they're walking away feeling like they got these answers. And sometimes the answers, I don't know, right? I don't know everything. And so then you can get their contact information, or they'll be like trying to describe a tree. And you're like, we'll be here next week. Why don't you come back with a photo next week and we can answer your question? So that's where that consistency comes into being there every week. So does that kind of help?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
helped a lot. Thanks.
I have one question though. How did you guys develop your certified arborist list that you would give to people? We've had some trouble here on deciding, what we could publish.
Oh, okay. Well, if it's people who are already certified through ISA, that's public information because you can go onto their website and find it. So to me, that would be easy to put together a list of current certified arborists. For the city of Junction, in order to be on the list, they also have to have liability insurance. And if they have more than one employee, they have to have workers' comp. And then they have to have a certified arborist on staff, so that if they have all those things, then they pay a small fee to be on the list. Then they're on that list that we share with the community. But there are people, I'm sure, in the community that aren't on the list that are certified arborists, but they're just not part of a company. But to answer your question, if you do the search for certified arborists in your zip code, you could easily publish that list.
So, and I guess part of the question is, since we're an advisory board, we don't set policy. So it really wouldn't be up to the tree board to do that. So would that be best coming from Carl, Public Works, our Board of Trustees?
The sharing a list of certified arborists?
Yeah.
That to me is you're advising the community of proper companies to use. So that's just an education and outreach, because a lot of people don't know that certified arborists exists. And like there's a fact sheet on why to hire a certified arborist or hire an arborist and not a guy with a chainsaw and a pickup truck. So to me, that's an educational outreach advocacy type of thing.
But to be clear on that, you are passing that information along because that is the city dictating that is how that should be done in your city?
In our
Does
case,
the city require it and they're taking the fee for it?
yes.
So if you
the
want to
city
be on the list,
requires-
that's a city thing, yeah, so it would be upper.
But if you were sharing the certified arborist list, you are just saying, these are people who are certified to do tree work in our zip code. So if you were gonna have tree work done, here is a list of people you could consider, but you don't
Okay.
have to. This is
Okay.
just so they don't
Okay.
have to go online to
It would-
find it.
It's not an endorsement or.
Correct.
Resource for citizens, but they can choose whoever they want, but it's a resource for
Yeah,
citizens.
well, we discussed all this for Emerald Ash Borer too,
Mhm.
Yeah.
for licensed, bonded, insured, and arborist.
And the state of Colorado has a published list. We just have to filter it by area or just give a more
Yeah.
generalized list version of it, so.
That would probably be for like pest chemical application. The state doesn't have a list of certified arborists.
Sounds good.
Yeah, you need pesticide application, public pesticide application. And right now, we have a list of registered companies. But it's not like it's required to, be on a list to do tree work in town.
Right.
Just a place to start.
No, do you have a question?
Well, I guess they all ask. Yeah, I think Aspen does a similar thing, right? You have to pay to get on the license there to be licensed to work in the city of Aspen. And to get it, you have to be a certified arborist and have your general liability and go through those steps like Junction, it sounds like. And maybe just I don't know how long that's been going on in Grand Junction and why the city decided to do that and pros and cons of that system.
So it's in our ordinance. So that's where the backbone to that comes in is you have to be a licensed arborist through the city to do tree work. And then the tree board decided what that meant. And we decided we wanted to have them be a certified arborist. And in Junction, it's a little different. The way they manage trees is that right-of-way trees are city owned. And so a tree that's, an easy case to explain is where you have the tree lawn, the sidewalk, and then the property. That tree lawn where those trees exist, the city is responsible for the pruning, the pesticide care if it needs it, the removal, the planting. The homeowner is responsible for the water. And so since the homeowner has to care for this tree, we don't want people who are going to do improper pruning city property. And so that's one of the reasons they went to the route of requiring certified arborists or people who know what they're doing to manage trees in the right of way, potentially. The city also prunes all the trees, but if a homeowner wanted to hire it out, we don't want the guy with a chainsaw and a truck to be doing the work. But it's also elevating, we see trees as a resource and an important part of our community, and know that improper pruning can be dangerous to homeowners when the topped tree fails or somebody lion tails a tree and it blows over in a windstorm. So we wanted to elevate the game of quality of work in the community by requiring them to be certified. And it's the same thing with, hiring a plumber or an electrician. They have certifications and insurance. And so we're treating our tree workers the same as we would other critical trained resources that are working on homes and around homes.
Does your group have a mission statement?
We have bylaws. It's probably in there. That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll talk about the purpose of a mission statement. I just have one more question, and then I don't want it to be, you don't have to go into a long discussion, but what we've noticed here in Carbondale is trees that are, of course, we consider them town property assets, and that's in our tree code. Our visitors don't really know that. And so we have damage that can be created by high-sided vans. We had one tree that, we lost. It was a pretty significant tree. We lost it because There was a lot of parking underneath it over many, many years. There's times when out in our park area, people will be hanging off of trees, hanging things from them. We try to encourage them to not do that. Do you have any particular approaches to reminding visitors and citizens that these, this is property, this is public property, please don't damage it?
Well, depending on where the trees are located, you could like turn it into an arboretum by like putting signs up about the value of trees. And in Grand Junction, we turned the downtown into an arboretum where we're not necessarily labeling any trees with a name because trees can change, but there's a QR code that takes you to a website that gives you information about the trees. So making them more special could be one way to, if that's a reasonable where some of those instances are occurring. So do you think a lot of the damage is being caused by out of towners or people in town who just don't know?
No, it's hard to say.
Heavy trucks.
We have a lot of, high paneled vans,
Right.
that park in public areas. Part of it, I think, where we recognize that maybe the trees aren't in the best spot. So that's probably contributing to some of the damage. Anyway, it's something that we noticed. We do an annual tree walk. We noticed this, we do that in June, and we noticed several areas that Carl did point out to us. And so we're thinking about how can we do better protection around these public trees.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that and get back to you on other ways.
Okay.
But I do think that the outreach and education at events where you're in, that's what I was asking, community versus people who are transitory moving through town is, so they're not there long. Like that's two different types of outreach. And that the tabling would be for your local folks, but then you would need probably some kind of signage at the places where it's occurring for your people who are passing through.
Yeah.
We could definitely talk through some ideas on that in the future.
Okay.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Who does your code enforcement in
The
Grand
police
Junction?
department does.
Okay.
Do they do it on their own? Like a lot of times I'll be driving, like this week, I drove past some construction going on next to some trees. So I texted Rob Davis, our city forester, and I was like, hey, so a lot of it is like, and we're policing it and then it's getting passed up. So they're not like actively looking for people breaking the law. So it's us reporting it to them and them being the ones that are the enforcers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes,
That's great.
absolutely.
When will you be in Carbondale again?
I can come up.
Well, let us know. So.
Yeah, I'll stay. Well, Carl and I can talk, but I can definitely come up for a future meeting or an event. Whatever makes sense. I'm happy to be what's needed.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to continue to listen.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. That was great. Okay, we'll move on to our next. We've got about a 15-minute here. I want to do a board orientation here. We have, thank you, Les and Vanessa. We didn't really get a great welcome at the beginning here, but thank you very much for joining us and putting in your application and taking time out of your schedule to join us and be a part of this. What I asked Ally to do was to attach to your packet the tree code. And what we're going to do is I highlighted areas. I just looked for tree board, right? And then I just highlighted that section. So what I want to do is we're going to do a little focusing around the language in the tree code. And we'll do as much discussion as we have time for. I did intend to present to you a little more in depth about how do we create our own projects? How do we create tasks for ourselves? How do we create objectives and goals, that kind of thing? Because I think that's going to help us with bringing ideas to this group. And then how do we get those ideas put into action? You know, we can talk all day long, but we want to really do something, right? So if all of you could turn to your part of your packet where there is the tree code and there's the preamble, if you want to look at that. And we can go right through that, the trustees determined under findings of fact, trees have a positive economic effect on the town. And so they created the purpose of the tree code. As a part of that, on the second page, you'll see highlighted that that's where the tree board was established, right, in the tree code. So does this all connect? I just want to make sure. I'm just going to go around. I know for those of us that have been on the board for a bit, but for our new members, do we understand how the tree code establishes the tree board?
It's the ordinance.
Yeah, I'm just reading from.
It's not a code, it's an ordinance.
Okay, okay, yes, thank you for the correction. It's an ordinance, yes. And I think sometimes we call it the tree code, but yeah, you're right. It is a ordinance. So does that relationship connect for you? When we say ordinance, do we understand what that means?
Well, I don't have a hard copy of the packet, but I did review the documents that Ally attached.
Okay,
And it was a little confusing because there's the Unified Development Code, there's the Municipal Code on Trees, there's the Tree Ordinance, and they refer to different articles and chapters, and I just wasn't sure where the links were necessarily.
I-
This is the ordinance we're talking about right now.
I can print a couple more off if you guys need.
I've got an extra too.
High level overview of all those different components and what they mean, how they relate to each other.
What she's talking about is the email that I sent early on, but what we're talking about is just the tree ordinance in the packet.
yeah,
So maybe just focus on the tree ordinance for
Yeah,
tonight
that's
and
what I
then.
want you to do, is just focus on this. So I just wanted us to look at language right now.
I think that's good.
Okay, I'm gonna excuse myself.
Okay,
I'll keep in touch. And maybe Zoom.
okay. So for orientation, this is to focus on language right now as it's written. And then we'll do discussion on our reflections, impressions, all of that. And I think specifically here is that the establishing a tree board is contained within an ordinance. And does everyone have a good sense of what an ordinance is for a town? It's like a rule, a regulation. It's how we're gonna do things.
It's a law.
Ordinances are law.
Yeah. Okay, Les and Vanessa, feeling comfortable with the concept? Okay. So, the Board of Trustees has established a tree board consisting of 7 members and 1 alternate. Tree board shall serve in an advisory capacity to the Board of Trustees in all matters relating to trees within the town. Members of the board shall serve without compensation. The term of each board member shall be 2 years, except that the term of 2 of the members appointed to the board shall be for 1 year. In the event that a vacancy shall occur during the term of any member, his or her successor shall be appointed for an unexpired portion of the term. I don't really understand the part about being appointed for a year, but I'm gonna bypass that because
Ended later by like an overarching
Okay.
advisory, Yeah.
right. Okay, so the operative phrase, advisory capacity. So how does, what are reflections on that phrase, advisory capacity? Dan, I know you've been, chewing on this for a long time, but I want to get an impression from our newer members. What does that mean for you when you're in an advisory capacity?
To me, the advisory capacity is twofold. It is one, a representation of the people of Carbondale that this board is made up of. It's a citizen group. It's volunteer. It's non-paid. So we represent a collective group of what the citizens of Carbondale require, and that is also reflected in our backgrounds and concern for trees, whether it's designers, arborists, the people who are just in love with trees and want to do something about it. And then two, it is because that group is interested and wants to mobilize, that we serve as an advisory position, which essentially means that the Board of Trustees isn't thinking about trees all the time. That's what our job is supposed to be. And because we're thinking about trees all the time, that is the advice we give to the Board of Trustees. And that could be done in multiple ways, which I think we'll discuss later in the ordinance.
So one word, I'm going to use delegation. It's the idea that the trustees said, yeah, this is really important. We don't want to think about it all the time, so let's delegate it to someone else. So I think does that feel comfortable for everybody, that it's essentially something that the trustees determine this is important to us, but we want we want citizens to handle the conversation around it. Okay. Okay, then again, I just did some searching on anywhere I saw tree board. Under trees on public property, what we want to look at here is there's a process that's identified under the building department. So the building department shall require all building permit applicants to, You can see all of that. Importantly, that there's a document called our tree maintenance standards, right? That any developers, anybody wanting to plant trees needs to look at that. And then item number 5, any changes to the landscape plan require approval from the tree board or by an administrative review by the Public Works Director. Right? So we want to understand that we have this language that allows us to do a review of the landscape plan. And it's mandated in this ordinance. Okay? I understand. Okay.
I'd just like to point out one thing.
Okay.
This ordinance was written before the first hire of our town arborist. So it doesn't reflect what the town arborist is responsible for and that may be one thing that we need, when you look at it, think of it as there was no town arborist at that time. There was only the tree board and the Public Works Director.
Okay, that's a good point, and I'm going to capture that here because this may be part of what we do going forward, is recommend that we recognize we have a town arborist now that has a role in this, and I think that's a really good point.
Another part on a rewrite for this is back in the day, we had a building department, and now we have a planning department and a building department.
Okay, I'm going to capture that too.
And so the language needs to change on a lot of this to go to the planning side of things and not the building side of things.
Yeah, and that, okay. So I'm just capturing our comments on that. I think those are 2 really good points.
If I could make one more comment on Joanne's previous comment. The ordinance was created and is established as what we're reading. The municipal code, which was updated through the ordinance, has separate language that does contain the planning and zoning information. So in my opinion, and what is traditionally done in this side of code in the profession, is that you say it once and you say it correct rather than multiple times. So if we're looking at updating the ordinance, I would suggest striking this kind of information from the ordinance and only having it in the municipal code, but that could be a conversation for later. It's just we don't want to double say things and then end up having those discrepancies pop up later and end up hurting the intent of what the ordinance describes.
Okay, so I'm capturing that as municipal code and ordinance need to be consistent in language. Okay. I think that's a great observation. And I think that's really important because you want one place where they're the same.
Yeah, this was written in 2002, and then the code was established May 9th, 2016, and then it's been updated 2 more times. There's also a reference to the comprehensive plan, which was during the pandemic. I remember going through all that on Zoom.
Okay. So,
It's not mentioned in here.
good points here. I'm gonna move on, just because we're running short
fine.
of time. All trees planted in public rights of way shall be trees listed in the recommended street tree list approved by the town tree board. So that is a really important job for us, right? Is maintaining that list, I don't really have a idea of how often we look at it, but I think that that would be something that we can create as a regular review, whether we do it annually. And this is important, I think, because, trees change, right? New trees are available, hybridization, whatever. But we learn things about trees. We're facing, for example, insect, completely destructive insect damage. So we really don't know what the future has. Anyway, so I would like to suggest that this review of the tree list is something we do on a regular basis, maybe annually. And I see you nodding, so you might have a suggestion on how frequently we should do it.
Yes, and I think annually would be great, specifically at the start of new terms. I know that's kind of like a set period of time that we typically do it at, even if, we're at a full board right now. I think setting that May kind of date, where we'll be getting public outreach and things of that nature would be a good time to just do an overview and make sure we're up to par.
And that I like this. This is shaping up as a project in my mind.
I have a lot of
Okay?
projects, yes.
So in my mind, this is and I do want to present to you project concepts where we don't have time tonight, but this is shaping up as a project. So that would be something that, as we are in those kind of those winter, that early or late winter, early spring, we might be saying, hey, it's time, let's get our outreach documents updated. Let's do our annual tree list. But we want things that are going to be consistent that we produce, right? Instead of kind of wondering, what are we going to do every year? So, okay.
Well, to Cammie's point too, I don't know if you heard her say she had the list of all-star trees, which were not necessarily recommended because everything's an experiment at this point. So there's the list and then there's the experimental side
Cool.
to increase the variety available.
I'm gonna, move us a little faster here, but okay. In section B, that page, landscaping for any new development within the town associated with a land used application, which requires a landscape plan, shall be reviewed by the tree board and a recommendation made to the planning and zoning commission. So here's a little bit of the disconnect in the language, building department, planning and zoning, and also making references to landscape, which isn't always specific to trees. So this is a part of this ordinance that it does recognize that we will get that we do get a review point. But there's a part of this process that we are involved in. It's a little bit, we've got some language that needs to be cleaned up there. Right? And that's going to be a part of, I think, a recommendation to make that language consistent and to spell out, very specifically what they're looking for from the tree board to give back. Right? Okay.
Let me give a little
Yeah.
background to this. We fought for almost 7 years to get that language put in there. And it's been disregarded ever since that point of when it was put into effect. The building department has been more cooperative than that. So it's an interesting thing, but I would like to point out that any changes that we have to the ordinance probably take 5 years.
What was that last comment?
It'll take 5 years.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna move on, okay.
Lisa,
But-
Ross here. Let me just chime in real quickly. I think actually a lot of the stuff that's come up in the last 5 or 10 minutes here is actually really, really good. And it's good timing as we kind of deal one with both sort of outreach and community and just public outreach in general as a board, but also sort of and this is one of my kind of pet project at the moment, and we can sort of address it now that we have a new town manager, is really cleaning up sort of a flow chart for some of these application projects. So I don't think it'll take much to say, hey, tree board, let's look at this ordinance and code. Tree board has to see it before it goes to P and Z. Like that's actually, and I guess I'm remiss for not actually having looked through that stuff as closely right now, but we can make sure that happens. And I think if it says it's supposed to happen, it will happen. And as to changes and how long that may or may not take, I don't think that should preclude us from cleaning things up to the best.
Oh, I didn't mean that.
Yeah.
I mean, be
Right.
patient is
Right.
what I was trying to say.
But I just want to make sure that I think we can clean some of this stuff up and we can all have a clearer, board as well, have a clearer idea of what happens A, B, C, D, because I think some of that has kind of gotten out of order a little bit or a lot in some cases.
Yeah.
I think that's caused understandable frustration. We don't want that.
Yeah, we're gonna point out this, there's ambiguity, yet we will continue to make progress. That's kind of, sometimes we can get caught in the ambiguity and it slows us down. So my intent is that we create some timelines for some outcomes for us. I want to encourage us to have achievements. And also, we're going to work on some of the ambiguity. But so just want everybody to know that we're not going to just, get stuck in this language all the time.
I would add, in addition to ambiguity, there's a lot of obsolescence that needs to be
And
updated.
that's an annual review. Yeah, that's why planning reviews are important. Yeah, reviews of even the code. Yeah, the ordinance. Okay. All trees, this is on page 5, that is listed here, and it's section E. All trees, this is a comment, I'm sorry, it's a section that identifies that damage to our trees is considered destruction or damage to town property. All trees on public property shall be protected during construction according to the protection standards developed by the tree board. This is an area that we have aspired and we've brought in examples. We still continue to work with our construction companies that come in, developers that come into the area to create a higher degree of awareness that these exist. And so this is definitely an area of improvement, or I would say we still have work to do in this area, whether it's how do we deploy the tree board to assist in that? I'm not sure yet. I think that's going to be, but I think that potentially an opportunity.
Building inspection.
Yeah, but it's potentially, what I want to say, it's potentially an opportunity for us to do some outreach, right? To developers, and just, reminding them.
Standard is a standard. It's set in the code. It talks about the standard.
Our-
And they agree to the standards.
Yeah.
This
And then
is,
they're not following through, so they're violating the
Okay,
standards.
so this is,
That's
the
code
intent of
side.
this is not to go into any kind of, pros and cons. I just want to identify that there's opportunities when we're looking at some of this. Okay? Do we agree?
no,
You don't agree there's an opportunity for us?
this is called code enforcement.
Okay,
The town has no code enforcement.
okay.
That's what this is talking about, is code enforcement. And Carl's frustrated by this.
Okay, so we need clarification on code enforcement.
No, we need code enforcement.
I do think when you're talking about protecting trees during construction, being consistent with the language in the ISA would be good too, and then called tree protection zones. So TPZs would be a good through line.
To your point, Noah, I mean, CRZs, critical root zones, understanding, that kind of stuff. I think we just need to be more robust in the language and more specific in the language before we can have a conversation with developers. Because if we don't have any backing to what we're trying to propose, specific, realistic, and understandable language, I don't think we have a good starting point to even make those connections.
So to go back to what I'm envisioning, and I'm trying to encourage, do you see this as an opportunity for the tree board to have its voice?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm hoping.
And the mechanism for that we can figure out as we go through this process.
Yeah, okay. So it is code enforcement. How do we have a voice in code enforcement? Because I think we do get frustrated with that.
We update our standards for planting and protection, which are other standards that we have in some pile over here. And those standards are supposed to be handed off in the planning phase. And I didn't see the language in the code when I read it yesterday, but those standards are handed off, signed off, and are expected to be abided by. And then we need an enforcement arm. Now, did she say that the police enforce that
Right.
through code enforcement?
That's what
And
she said.
there? So that brings another educational component for the code enforcement officer.
Right. So again, it feels like an opportunity for us.
I think that we need to work on the standards before we work on the ordinance. I think that's something that we can update more rapidly and make it a more dynamic set of documents to work with, and then have some kind of check through loop back for us to know that it's happening. We're supposed to look at plans. They're supposed to sign off on how they're going to do it. Then their permits are issued, and then it becomes a code enforcement issue that they are abiding by what they signed off on through the standards, which are law,
So
like an ordinance.
as an opportunity, it starts to set up as a project, and with a series of tasks. And that's what I'm hoping that we can start to create our flow as, so that when we create agendas, we're working on projects with tasks and timelines.
Yeah. And to your point, I would suggest that we do the standards for planting and protection ahead of working on the ordinance, because those are things that we can work on and get a result built into the planning structure more rapidly. Would you have an opinion on that, Ross?
Not yet, but I'm gonna move us on because we're a little bit over
Sorry.
time here.
Yeah, I think I think that would sort of certainly go through Carl and Kevin. But in terms of getting more enforcement, I think, or follow-up, which is what I'm hearing is maybe the bigger issue there. I don't know whether that's something that would need to be written into the code, but I mean, it seems like a development agreement that checks off those boxes is something that's enforceable.
So what we're looking, Ross, what I'm hoping to present to the group is the concept of how we can use this to create tasks for us as a tree board. And so there's lots of details. How does it get delegated? Do we involve police? Do we involve that's a little further down the line as we shift our interactions here to project orientation.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll just add too, there's a lot of things I do, they're not in the ordinance with tree protection. Like I use ISA guidelines, tree protections, and they sign agreements. right, for tree protection, but it's not necessarily like in the ordinance. There may be some more things in the UDC,
Yeah.
but just let you guys know, like, I am using the current standards. They just may not be in the ordinance. I
Okay.
mean, we can certainly work on
Yeah,
that.
we're not trying to get into a lot of weeds here. This is mainly to present the concepts of how we can start to create agendas for ourselves, for this board, so that we are working on the kinds of tasks that we repeatedly see as opportunities. And so that's why I'm using that word. And I think that there is an opportunity there. And I see Josh nodding, so I'm going to go forward with that perspective, and we'll just work it out, right? We'll just keep working on it. Okay. I do want to move us on. This is on the almost the last page. Standards for tree planting, maintenance, and removal. We talked about it just a few minutes ago. The tree board shall develop and maintain a list of desirable trees. Definitely setting that up as an annual task, I think, is a very important function for us. That's an outcome that we can hold ourselves accountable to, right? And we can give it a timeline, everything. The trustees can expect us sometime in the early part of the year to say, hey, we've updated this. How does it look? Do you guys, is it to your liking? And then they can say, okay, great. Hopefully they just say, yeah, we like what you've done. So.
And to clarify, that would be the tree planting maintenance and standards guidelines. It wouldn't be an update regularly to the municipal code or the ordinance.
Right, exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been working behind the scenes with planning and building department, working on a lot of these things. And I think there is, like you're saying, there's an aspect of it that we could reference. And what that document is that we reference is like a living thing, because things change. So.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Carl. Okay, that's my 2 cents for the this part. I do appreciate you staying over. Any other items that we need to cover this evening? All right.
The landscape plan reviews, we're gonna,
Well, it was a part of this. It just kind of got, when it got put into the agenda, it was more of the word I want to use is blob, but
yeah, I thought that was gonna cover, like, I appreciated the fact that we got a landscape plan for 888, but it was really nothing.
It's a done deal, baby.
You're right. And what I was worried about was that the Board of Trustees was gonna vote on that and accept it without us giving any advice. And I think that happened.
Yeah, the planning and zoning approved it and they approved it.
Right, and we never saw that plan.
Yeah.
So there's what my objection was to even showing us that plan. That wasn't a complete plan.
Yeah.
And then other boards, without our advice, made a decision. And, that's a public one. And, Carl was involved in some things and he told us about it at the meeting. But, this is one of the breakdowns of that where we could have given some advice, and whatever we do now will be ignored.
Yeah.
Dan, I want to just let you know that I did bring up the tree board concerns with that. That was a minor site plan review and only brought to the board because there was, I think, a single tree. I forget the specifics specifically without it in front of me. But absent one tree, it wouldn't have even been brought to the Board of Trustees. But what we're seeing here in the ordinance is that tree board should see landscape plans before they're brought before any projects are brought before planning and zoning. And so that that should have happened and it didn't. And I noted that, and that is something that we definitely will be changing. That is on the agenda. we want to make sure that that happens.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I agree with the sentiments, but I do need to clarify that the municipal code strictly points out the difference between a building permit submission, which is not what we received, and what is we are required to review, versus a landscape plan. That language difference is going to get us confused if we're not on the same page. So again, what we saw was not a building permit. So even if we were to comment on it, it wasn't supposed to be submitted to us. It was just a courtesy.
It was a courtesy. It
From-
was identified as a courtesy.
Right, so we're still gonna have a chance to comment on it if the building department follows through with sending us the actual building permit.
That's how I understood it also.
I want to mention one thing. So a land use application, which is what a part of the landscape plan that is in the ordinance, goes through the zoning department. It doesn't go through the building department. So when in the ordinance, when it says landscaping for any new development associated with a land use application, that's only if there's a zoning change on the property. So it's not just any new building that goes in town. If it's a commercial property, a commercial building can go on it. If it's a change in land use, then it comes before the tree board. And I spoke with Kevin about kind of the process, because it is strange that the review would come to the tree board and then go to planning and zoning. Because planning and zoning could send it back and then it would have to come back to the tree board if it got altered extremely. So a process that might be better is if planning and zoning sees it and then states upon their approval, the tree board needs to review it first. So after it's been approved, in a sense, by planning and zoning, it would then come to you and you would see it at the final approval stage before it goes on to the trustees. Does that make sense?
A little bit, but the ordinance does say that the Director of Public Works can review those plans. The tree board doesn't have to review those plans.
Yeah.
He can make that
Yeah.
decision, which we have been very happy to go along with.
So.
We have reviewed an awful lot of commercial plans, the banks around here on 133. We went through all that review. And we're preliminary. We're an information only outfit, which gives information to planning and zoning, which ostensibly is not a variety of tree experts. They're planning and zoning people. So in a perfect world, we're the group that takes a look at it and says, drainage, shadowing, plant selection, how many more spring snow crabapple trees are we going to have in town? What's going to get them next? So we've always been the ones that we receive them and look at that, and we put our advisory stamp on that without any teeth on it, and then planning and zoning can look at it. And everything that we're looking at when it gets submitted is supposed to have met the standards from planning. And these documents are so obsolete, it's really hysterical to read how far back they go and what language isn't missing. So we still need to be in the loop ahead of it, because planning and zoning will never say, oh, wait a minute, let's go back to them. We're supposed to be on the line this far on the flow chart to the left and not to the right.
So,
I just want to say something really fast. Sorry, this is Cami. As you can see, there's so much to cover in these tree board meetings that 1 hour is never enough. We have found that with ours. And second, what we've done is we are also updating our ordinance injunction. We started subcommittee meetings because we could never get through all the things we needed to get done in the meetings. So we created these subcommittee meetings to focus on the ordinance updates and the other projects like you're suggesting. So that might be an idea where it's not a required meeting, but those who have time or have interest, it helps move things along.
yeah,
So we're
thank you.
having our monthly meetings and basically monthly subcommittee meetings to help move things along. So I'll just wanted to point that out, that you just have so much to do that it's hard to get it done in one meeting a month.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that exactly is the direction we will go in as we start to create we start to go into a project orientation and a task orientation, a timeline orientation, then we can get into the subgroups. And that is how this kind of work gets done, right? You can't all get it done just in this 1 hour as Kemi has identified. So, okay. Any other business items for this evening? Just a little feedback I think is important. Did we find it valuable to do an orientation like this? We had some discussion about maybe even having a notebook and that kind of thing, but we're incredibly grateful. I'm looking at the new members here, those of us that have been hanging out here for a year or so on our own, but to have these additional 4 members feels like a real group, right? So we're very appreciative that you're here. My intent was to, if someone were to ask you, what do you do on the tree board? You have an answer now, right? I don't want you to say, well, gee, I don't know. You know, we're working on it. It's going to create, we're going to create the flow. We're going to create the work for ourselves. So, and you can kind of see that we've got, there's things that can be improved. We're not perfect right now. So we're going to work on improvement. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, I like the idea that we had the ordinance now. Next meeting could be municipal code, next meeting could be UDC.
Yeah.
So, and that then we see how that progresses.
Yeah, tie the pieces together.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Okay. May I have a motion for adjournment?
Had enough, folks?
I had a motion and maybe a second? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks, Tammy.
So,
Thanks,
yeah, thank you.
Ross.
Thanks for